Hey folks, David Tao with BarBend.com, and today we're talking about four-time reigning fittest man on earth, Matt Fraser. Now, he had a dominating performance in stage one of the 2020 Reebok CrossFit Games. He's looking nearly unbeatable heading into the finals in Aromas, California. We're gonna break down his stage one performance, any potential weaknesses or challengers who could really give him a run for his money in Aromas, and analyze a few other things when it comes to the man who's trying to become the only person to win the Reebok CrossFit Games 5 years in a row. But before we dive too deep into that, make sure you subscribe to BarBend on YouTube to stay up to date, not only on CrossFit, but on everything weightlifting, powerlifting, strongman, you name it, we probably got it. We've actually been really fortunate at BarBend to work with Matt on a few pieces of content in the past, and we sat down with him a few months ago to talk about his diet and how that impacts his training, or vice versa. We'll link that in the description below, as well as in a card right about now. So if you're ever wondering about the diet of the four-time defending fittest man on earth, we've got you covered. Matt Fraser came out of the gates real hot in stage one of this year's CrossFit Games with an event win on friendly Fran. And not only was it an event win, it was a dominating win. In fact, he finished a full 47 seconds ahead of the man who finished in second in that workout, Noah Ohlsen. Just a reminder, Noah actually finished second at the 2019 Reebok CrossFit Games, and for a little bit of the weekend last year, actually wore the white leader jersey. Fraser had to come back and regain that from Noah. But Fraser actually beating Noah Ohlsen, who's very good at thrusters and pull-ups, by the way, by a full 47 seconds on this workout, it kind of shocked the world. Fraser was able to back up that friendly Fran victory with a fourth place finish on the front squat, 425. Now, Fraser has a pretty significant weightlifting background. He was an internationally competitive junior weightlifter for a number of years before he found CrossFit. So no surprise that he's got great leg strength. No surprise that his front squat mechanics are fantastic. This is a great lift that kept him right at the top of the leaderboard. Wasn't the heaviest we saw on the weekend. That was 490 by Griffin Raleigh, but still very good lift and shows that he's one of the strongest male competitors, even though he's not on the larger end of the field. Damn Diane, which was one of my favorite events on the weekend because of the heavy deadlifts and strict deficit handstand push-ups. I like that they made the handstand push-ups real tough on these athletes. It was another 1-2 finish for Matt Fraser and Noah Ohlsen. So these athletes showing that they're right there at the top of the field. In fact, they finished the weekend in first and second, but Fraser continuing to edge out Ohlsen on some of these classic CrossFit workouts, or at least variations on these classic CrossFit workouts. The 1,000 meter row was actually Fraser's worst event finish during stage one of this year's CrossFit Games. He finished 8th place. Now, that's not the most surprising thing in the world, and 8th isn't bad. A top 10 finish is great in a format like this. But again, it's not super surprising. Fraser isn't one of the taller athletes in the field, and that height certainly confers an advantage when it comes to rowing. The longest workout of the weekend, pushing that 20-minute mark for some of these athletes, was Nasty Nancy. Fraser notched another event win, proving he's also super fit, the fittest in the field, at that sort of time domain. It was also the weekend's only running WOD, and he notches another event victory. It spells really, really good things for his overall capacity heading into the finals in Aromas. The handstand hold, which was the second to last event of stage one, also featured Matt Fraser and Noah Ohlsen occupying the top 2 spots. But they were flipped. Ohlsen actually edged out Fraser and came away with an event win. Fraser finished that one in second place. Awful Annie, which was yet another scaled up classic CrossFit workout with that weird kind of thick rope, the GHDs, and the heavy power cleans, another event win for Fraser. We've seen he really likes to cap off events with an event win right at the end, and he came away with another one here. And that was 4 event wins over 7 events on the weekend. He won more than half of the events while also finishing in second place on the handstand hold. Another historically dominating performance. But the question remains, can anyone beat him in Aromas? So the top 5 men heading into this year's CrossFit Games finals in Aromas, well, it looks a little bit different than people might have expected. Now, the names at the top are no surprise. Matt Fraser and Noah Ohlsen. That was the 1 and 2 from last year's Reebok CrossFit Games. But the other 3 names are a bit surprising. Justin Medeiros, Samuel Quant, and Jeffrey Adler. A lot of folks were expecting different names in that top 5. A lot of folks had Patrick Vellner, Brent Fikowski, Chandler Smith as potential qualifiers. Those were 3 potential qualifiers that I was actually pretty bullish on heading into the weekend. But Olsen, Medeiros, Quant, and Adler will be Fraser's challengers heading into Aromas. And of those athletes, the one who looks most poised to potentially challenge Matt is clearly Noah Olsen. I do want to give a shout out to Justin Medeiros though. He's young, he's hungry, he's improving rapidly over the weeks and months. We've seen him improve over the course of this season. So he could be a very different athlete by the time he hits Aromas, and that could spell danger for the other competitors in the men's field. One thing that's really important to note heading into the finals, the points will reset. Athletes aren't carrying over their points from stage 1 into the top 5, so everyone's starting with a blank slate. Now, events that could potentially trip up Fraser at the finals, well, he's pretty good at everything. A barbell's not gonna trip him up. Running, we've seen he's pretty darn good at. I wonder though if we're going to see one of those longer trail runs that we saw in the very early iterations of the CrossFit Games back when the entire thing was at Aromas every year. I'm not exactly sure how he'd fare with that. He could do extraordinarily well. That's just not something I'm personally familiar with when it comes to Matt's fitness and capacity. Also, when it comes to the swim, Fraser is good. Olsen is very good. Olsen tends to edge out Fraser on the swim events, so that's another thing that could potentially trip Matt up. And then also we've seen Matt not be the best or not be the strongest in the field when it comes to rowing. He's not toward the bottom of the pack. He's still very good and he stacks up well against the other competitors, but it's not the sort of event where he's probably going to take away an event win. Or at least I should say, it's not the sort of event where he's guaranteed to take away a win, especially if there's a lot of rowing. Another advantage that Matt has, his training partner is the fittest woman on earth, Tia Claire Toomey. They push each other in training and set a pace that really no one else can match. It's a huge mental advantage heading into any competition, especially a small field of just 5 men and 5 women. Well, there you have it, but I want to know, do you think that Noah Olsen, Justin Medeiros, Samuel Quant, or Jeffrey Adler can challenge Matt Fraser for a spot at the top of the podium this year? Let us know in the comments below. Until then, I'm David Tao. Thanks for tuning in.